Okay, okay, okay. Welcome back to Grand Strange Smoking Jokes, and I'm your boy Juice Wanna. Right, as you can see, like I always like to point out, because I'm starting my new grow, so I got my 3 beer OG right here, I got my Pink Panama right here, and I got my Fuge State over here. Right, and now these are all Mephisto genetics. Right. So this whole tent, that's my. Actually, it's funny. My tent is on this side right here, but it would look like it's on this side, but it's really this side right here. Anyway, nonetheless, right. Thank you for joining us once again, right? Where we will be talking about this mighty whiter you situation we have going on in America, right? Not just America, actually, it's, a global problem, but I'm in America, right? But I acknowledge the problem globally, right? So, we're going to be talking, let me shift over here, move myself over a little bit, all right? All right? And, bring up my lower third for you right here, all right? So you see my lower third right here. Don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that bell. This is what this is here for, to constantly remind you, if you like it, show love. You know what I'm saying? Let more people know you like it. All right? So anyway, let's get over to this, right? It says free bus ride for immigrants to Washington, New York, and Chicago began in Texas border town. Now we know how they feel about critical race theory and these type of things, and as time go on you should be able to see. Now let me also say I've been trying to keep my shows these part of the shows 10, 15 minutes, so that way it won't bog people down. But this is something that's going to actually, I already know, is going to go over that 10, 15 minutes. It's just what it is, right? Now, for me, I want to also, say this disclaimer. I have nothing against, Latin people. I tell people all the time, well, as of late, my grandmother is Cuban, right? Okay. Right? Let me show you this picture right here. All right, so you can see, right? This lady, that's my father right here, right? This is my pops. He's Jamaican, right? You can tell by his clothes, right? Oh, where we at? Okay, this lady right here, this is my grandmother, born in Cuba, right? And in the middle is my aunt, my grand aunt, and she's Haitian. So, I never been on it this thing. I don't I'll let people know I'm Jamaican, due to if they met my family they'll hear the accent. But usually I don't even say Jamaican because I don't like excluding any part of my family, so I just say I'm Caribbean, right? From the Caribbeans, right? And so I'm saying that because my people came here as immigrants as well. That I'm the first person born in this country, right? And as you can see, my people come from all over the Caribbeans. So I don't say what I'm about to say in any malice like I'm one of these ADOS people and secretly Republican and all of that stuff. Nah. I'm saying this by watching and observing, right? And and other times, since I'm doing this article, when I bring up other articles, I can reference back to this right here, right? But the shift in, say, California, right? MS-13s and all of that involvement with the gangs and basically using them to clear out, right? Now, I'm not saying that the people that, these immigrants that's coming to Washington, out to New York and out to Chicago and all of that, these are gang members. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is inside of that, I believe that this will be used to amp up those racial tensions, right? And so before you want to go and be ADOS and hop on, the Republican bandwagon, understand that your master is the mastermind behind these actions. Just something to think about, right? So let's get into this article. Now, this is at Del Rio, Texas. Right now, mind you, I'm doing two different articles. I'm covering, that they sending them to these places, but then I'm gonna get into an article out in Washington where they declared a national emergency because of this. Right. So, Del Rio, Texas, just past 1:30 p.m. on Monday, two white and green striped U.S. Border Patrol vans pulled up outside of Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition, a migrant respite center, and 19 asylum seekers spilled out. Now, Mayor Adams called Governor Abbott's decision to send migrant buses to New York inhumane. I just wanted to, keep that in there, right? Some looked dazed and were speckled with dry mud. One woman carried an infant on her hip. All looked exhausted. Tiffany Burrow, the center director, greeted the migrants, chatted briefly with the Border Patrol agents, then led the migrants into the center where they received hygiene kits and information on U.S. travel options. Right? Many of the migrants would board state-funded charter buses to Washington, New York, and Chicago, an initiative launched by Texas Governor Greg Abbott earlier this year that has sparked national controversy. State officials have bused nearly 11,000 migrants to those cities. Pay attention to that, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. We got things going crazy as heck, right? And I want to pull up an article where, we had these foreigners who wound up actually getting shot in Chicago, but it was they were like military from another country doing training out here. So I just found that strange. So I'm just pointing that out. Like I said, I'll be bringing that article up, even though it's an older article. I still wanna have certain things in my files. Like these are my files as well, so I can say, see, I was pointing this stuff out. Abbott's officials has said it is busing asylum seekers to migrant-friendly sanctuary cities to protest Joe Biden's border policies and help alleviate the strain on Texas border cities absorbing the migrants. Like Del Rio, critics call it a political ploy that uses migrants as pawns as a cost to state taxpayers of more than $12 million, right? Free bus rides an option put on the table, right? To Burrow, the person at the center of the unfolding drama is not politics. The free bus rides are valuable tools in easing the crush of migrants at her center. The number of migrants welcomed there has soared from 25 a week in 2019 to more than 1,500 a week today. I understand that, but there's a lot of places in Texas you could have sent them, right? You send them all the way to these major cities, and that's for a reason, Right. In August, the center received 6,249 migrants. Right. This is an option that was put on the table, she said. Why wouldn't migrants take advantage of this and just leave the politics out? The center opened in 2019 after Border Patrol officials contacted local leaders in Del Rio to say their holding facilities were overflowing and they needed somewhere to take the migrants after being released other than Del Rio streets. I can dig that. Like I said, I'm not mad that you need to put them in other places. But I'm saying Texas is the largest state, right? Outside of, I think, if not the largest, could be the second largest compared to Alaska, right? So you could have sent them to you could have sent them to Alaska. I'm just saying, right? You could have sent them all through your state and still had these options, because most likely they have people in different places. You're sending them there for a reason, right? Some were taken somewhere to take the migrants after being released other than Del Rio streets. Backed by local churches and private donations, Borough opened the center in this squint 10,000 square foot former city public health building. Like I said, I understand that, right? Tiffany Burrows runs the Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition Migrant Shelter in Del Rio, Texas. She coordinates with state officials to place migrants on state-funded charter buses to Washington, New York, or Chicago. This is, by Rick Jervis, right? At first, Burroughs too suffers and a handful of volunteers easily handled the 25 migrants a week that were dropped off to her center, which at the time was open just 2 days a week. In January 2021, as Biden took office and promised a more humane approach to border policies, the numbers spiked to 100 a week, she said. Yeah, that's like quadruple what they're used to, right? Later that, like I said, so I'm not saying this, the part of them having a problem and them having a problem with another Caucasian, right? That's Biden, right? What I'm saying is how it's going to affect the people in the middle, right? You're sending them to Chicago, a crime, place right now, right? You got to question what is going on. You're sending them to New York, crime infested right now. You got to question what is going on. DC, crazy, and so you got to ask what is going on here. Later that year, Del Rio made headlines when nearly 1,500 Haitians gathered in a makeshift encampment on the banks of Rio Grande seeking asylum in the United States. As the migrants crossed the river, Border Patrol agents on horseback tried to push them back across. Right, images of the mounted guards repelling the migrants splashed across TV screens and circulated through social media, sparking a furious backlash. Yeah. The number of Haitians crossed into Del Rio was declined, right? But the overall number of migrants using Del Rio as their crossing point is on the rise. Through July, the Del Rio sector of the U.S. Border Patrol encounters 376,106 migrants, second only to Rio Grande Valley along the 1,933-mile U.S. Mexico border, and 106% jump from the same time last fiscal year, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection statistics. Right now, I just wanted to point out like how they treated the Haitians in this. The number of Haitians crossing, right, the Delhi, Del Rio was declined. All right, so just wanted to put that in there. Right, so when we talk it as mighty white to you, shifting smuggling routes and coverage converged on Del Rio. My fault there. A large number of migrants, most of them from Venezuela, using Del Rio to enter the United States and turn themselves into the authority, point to shifting smuggling routes and migrant trends, said Adam Isaacson, right, on the Washington office of the Washington office on Latin America, a research and advocacy group, with a very few migrants being allowed in at the port of entry because of Title 42, the public health order that allows border agents to expel asylum seekers to avoid the spread of the coronavirus. Many turn to crossing illegally, he said, right? I'm not sure. Cudo, aquí in Mexico, right? Across the Rio Grande from Del Rio is seen as safer and less to in the grip of violent cartel groups compared with other North Mexico spots, he said. And word spread quickly among migrants, right? Migrants are clearly being steered to these sectors, of course, he said. It considers a safer place to cross. Inside the air-conditioned center, a large color map of the United States sits across from a bank of landline phones and cell phone charging stations. Burrow and her staff reviewed the asylum seekers' paperwork and see what detentions was entered there, destinations was entered there. They also talked to the migrants to determine where they want to end up. The center does not take migrants overnight. They're there only to clean up, grab a snack, and make travel arrangements to their final destinations, Burrow said. I dig it. Migrants who board a bus in Texas are dropped off within view of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. on August 11, 2022. Since April, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered buses to carry thousands of migrants from Texas to Washington, D.C. in New York City to highlight criticism of President Joe Biden's border policies, right? So that's by Stephanie Reynolds, AFP, right, via Getty Image. That's what this is all about, right? Here. So this is, I was reading, like I said, I do the pictures because, it's somebody else's picture. They deserve that credit. Sometimes the Border Patrol paperwork is wrong. On Monday, Burrows spoke to a migrant who had Alaska written on. See, look at that. I said Alaska. Right? Written on his, although he wished to go to New York. Nah. He wanted to go to Alaska. Travel options from Del Rio are limited. A Greyhound bus leaves twice a day at 11:45 and again at 5:45 p.m. to San Antonio at a cost of $50 for a one-way ticket. The American airline flies twice daily from Del Rio International Airport to Dallas. The one-way flight costs about $240. Migrants are responsible for paying their own way. Borough will also offer a third option: free state-funded bus rides to Washington, New York, and Chicago. Yeah, these are free. Those they gotta pay for. What do you think is gonna happen, right? Only those who want to get on the bus, she said, right? But you manipulating them mentally by putting them in this bind. You are trapping them into, well, I'm already strapped for cash and all of that. And, but you're offering me free. Which one do you think they're going to take? You're manipulating the situation. Only those who want to get on the bus, she said. The majority of migrants choose the free bus ride, of course. It's completely voluntary. See, this is right when I deal, well, that's a whole different thing, but it comes to this same logic of putting you in a position of voluntarily making a choice that they pushed you into. So it's really not voluntarily. You are being funneled in this direction, right? Where we at here? It's completely voluntary, Burroughs said. We don't have a lot of options, and these people don't have a lot of money, so it's beneficial to them. See? Stepping over bodies to reach the United States. Burroughs said she had seen migrants arrive with bruises and swollen black eyes from cartel beatings. She has consoled migrants whose loved ones drowned while crossing the nearby Rio Grande and who arrived with just the clothes on their backs. All are eager to reach their final U.S. destination and began working, she said. At the center, groups of migrants milled around outside picnic tables, using cell phones to call relatives, to coordinate travel, to figure out how to reach their U.S. cities. Right? Carlos Gonzalez Guerrero, 24, said he spent 40 days traveling with his 17-year-old brother, Vincio, from his native Monagas, right, Venezuela, to the U.S.-Mexico border. They crossed through Colombia and Panama, trekked through the treacherous jungle path of the Darien Pass, where they stepped over bodies left in the trail. Right? Gonzalez Guerrero pointed to the ripped gray flannel shirt he was wearing and his soiled gray t-shirt and flip-flops. They were the only thing he had left, he said. And you're going to send him up, well, to a cold places, like, I don't know. He turned down the free bus rides because he was trying to get to his other brother in North Carolina. Well, you could have went to D.C. and went down. All right, you could have started off in D.C. and traveled down. It'd have been cheap. It'd have been way cheaper. Instead, he was trying to scrape together the $50 for the Greyhound bus ride to San Antonio. And from there, he tried to borrow money for a flight. I'm telling you, it would have been better to go to D.C. for that. It's just like 2 states away, right? Versus coming from Texas. U.S. Border Patrol agents drop off asylum seekers at the Val Verde border. This is another picture right here, so you can see this right here. This is, with the captions is U.S. Border Patrol agents drop off asylum seekers at the Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition migrant shelter in Del Rio, Texas. Many of the migrants will later take state-funded buses rides to D.C., to New York and to Chicago. Rick Jarvis, right? I'm relieved we're here, Gonzalez Guerrero said. I just want to get to North Carolina and get to work because they out there, they getting theirs and help building up Charlotte and all of that. Burrow said that until Congress comes up with a more permanent solution, she and the center are all these migrants have. For now, she's focused on getting as many people on as many modes of transportation as possible so they can begin their new lives. The buses are a key part of that equation, right? It's a help. It is helpful, she said, but I don't anticipate this will be on the table forever. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not against migrants. I understand the struggle. I never been one of those people. I understand, this nation here is built up in a certain way as well. So I'm just saying I understand the manipulation of sending people to certain areas, these major cities, and you're doing that for a reason. Because that same lady, she could have told them, well, you can go to, Washington and just, be 2 states away. It'd be a lot cheaper for whatever you're planning to do, right? But here go what we saying about Washington. Washington mayor declares public emergency over migrant arrivals from Texas, Arizona. Right? U.S. House Oversight and Reform Committee holds hearings on the District of Columbia statehood bill on Capitol Hill in Washington. This is the Rietta Carlos Barbria, right? So, see the young lady right here. She looks stern, but she look pretty. I like her, right? Washington re-utters, right? Washington Mayor Mauro Burrows on Tuesday declared a public emergency over buses of migrants sent by Republican governor from the U.S.-Mexico border state of Texas and Arizona. Burrows, a Democrat, issued an order to support arriving migrants by creating a new Office of Migrant Services and will devote $10 million to launch the office. The city will seek reimbursement from the federal government, Bowser said. Right? Texas Governor Greg Abbott has sent more than 7,900 migrants to Washington, D.C. since April in an effort to push responsibility for border crosses to Democrats, including U.S. President Joe Biden. Arizona has sent about 1,700. Right? So this is using these migrants as basically, your weapon. And so you have to question when the weapon is going to be used, what is the weapon going to do? You got to question that, right? Texas also has sent more than 2,000 or just say 2,200 migrants to New York City and 300 to Chicago, although some get off the bus in other U.S. states before reaching the city. See, this is what I mean. Right, that's what I mean on a smart way. That's in reference to going to North Carolina, but also it's what's going on. You're not paying any attention. They getting off, right? Burrow's office called the buses a political stunt, a sentiment echoed by the White House and Democrat mayors of New York and Chicago. Yeah, these are all Democratic places, right? Around 85% to 90% of migrants arriving in Washington, D.C. on the bus continue to other U.S. destinations within hours or days, according to volunteers who assist them, right? That's why I said they should have let that person know, the two brothers. Well, you can go to D.C. We can, you're going to be having a way easier chance to get from D.C. to North Carolina, to then Texas to North Carolina. But hey, you know, Bowser said the city is preparing for border crossings to increase in the fall and for Texas and Arizona to send hundreds of additional buses to Washington. The crisis at the border is not lessening. It's getting worse, she said. Some 94 migrants and families are currently being housed in hotels in Washington, D.C., through the city shelter system, she said. Newly arrived migrants in Washington have struggled to secure permanent housing and medical care, Riutter reported in August. Bowser twice requested National Guard's troops to help receive the migrants, but was denied both times. Titiani Labrador, managing director of SAMU, First Response, an organization receiving federal funding to aid the arrivals, said some migrants have experienced homelessness due to a lack of a stable job and knowledge of English. By extending the service and creating a more robust system, we can really track them and help them along the way, she said. Right now, this is reported by Ted Hessen in Washington, edited by Naomi and Bill Burkrock. Right. So what that is, what I was alluding to. When you look at these two systems, right? You look at one system trying to get these. So for me, I always look at things like they working hand in hand, right? You want this civil war, you want this internal strife, so both sides, the border patrols before then wasn't letting that many people in. What changed? Are you having less people at the border patrols or something? No. So it's you allowing these people in, and so it's like this Cold War, Russia and America, but this is internal. And, you got to look and pay attention to where are they sending the people. That's what you need to really pay attention to. Right? I just want to see my tent real quick. I like the way I have it hooked up where I can just simply, see it popping up, seeing it doing its numbers. Right. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this once again. I'm Juice Wanna. This is Grand Strain, Smoke and Jokes. Right. Oh, let me put this up here too. Right. Conspiracies. Right. So whenever I do certain things, I want to have my, because I'm a grower, right? So then it's conspiracies, if you can get that, right? Anyway, you know what I'm saying? We up out of here. Y'all have a good one. Until next time, hold it down and hold your heads.